Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. We're going to take a little detour from the Stearman build and put together another World War I airplane. This is a D7 from Motion RC. It's a Nexa D7 and it's a 67-inch wingspan. It can be powered either by a 20cc gas engine or electric. I chose to go electric on it because I didn't feel like fiddling with a gas engine, and we've got plenty of lipos to run this thing. And it's a small airplane, so I figured, what the heck. If I don't like electric, I'll switch it to gas. But I've always wanted the D7. I've had in the past a Sopwith Pup. I've had the DR1. I've flown other people's albatrosses and Eindeckers. And I was planning on, after the Stearman was done, possibly building a third scale D7. But in the meantime, this will satisfy my need for a D7. And so I'm going to pull the Stearman off the table and pull this D7 out of the box and start putting it together. Okay, this airplane came in a double box, which is normal for any of these ARFs. This is how it's packed. And these guys, they taped everything in here. I've been cutting some of it loose, make it easier to take out. They packed the motor and the speed controller that I went with. This was just a recommended speed controller and motor. So I'll pull this thing out, get everything laid out on the table, and then we'll take a good look at it. All right, there it is laid out. I have never seen this much tape in my life on any model. This is actually kind of ridiculous how much tape there was. All right, so couple things I don't see, but to look and see, there might be inside the airplane. So let me get this unwrapped and laid out. So this airplane is called the black and white version, even though it has the camouflage on it. I'm happy to see there's a center section, so you don't have to remove the entire top wing, just the upper and lower halves. And in fact, they give you a support kit for transport. You put the two wings together with this piece that you build, and holds the two wings together, so you don't have to remove the end struts and take all the pieces apart. All right. This is going to take a while, so this will be a sped up version. Okay guys, got everything out of the packaging mostly. So here's the fuselage with just the feathers set on it, tail feathers, and the center section, and the front grille. The front grille fits kind of tight. We'll have to see how that goes on later. Here's the top wings, the bottom wings, and then the landing gear center section. They give you a pilot here. Sort of looks like Wicked Witch of the West. Dummy engine. Here's all your cabanes and struts for the wings. Here's your parts package. Quite a bit of stuff in there. Two dummy guns. Of course, the fuel tank and motor mount for a gas engine or glow engine, whatever you're putting in there. Now, this is the motor they recommend, Admiral GP20 295 kV, and this is the speed controller, a Mantis G2. It's a 65 amp speed controller. We'll see how that goes, whether I'm going to like it or not. I didn't order the electric propeller that they recommend. It wasn't just an APC electric propeller, and I would much rather put a wood propeller on it. They recommend a 1710, so we'll have to see. We'll put the watt meter on this thing and see how many watts and amps it's pulling. And okay, there's the motor. By comparison, it's a good sized motor. Probably your average 60 size glow motor equivalent. And it's supposedly a 20 cc gas equivalent. Now, they recommend running this on two 4 cells, and it didn't say whether it was in parallel or series. In series, I'd give you 8 cells. I'm guessing that it's probably just 4 cells in parallel. And so I'm thinking about running a 6 cell. I have a lot of these 6 cells for our EDFs, and so I'll have to experiment with that and see how the amperage and wattage is on a 6 cell as compared to 4s. I do have 2 4 cells which I can use, compare against, and we'll see how that goes. Okay, the first task on this model is to assemble the landing gear. Most kits I've ever done they want you to secure all the flight controls first. But this one, no, we're going to do the landing gear first, and then we're going to bolt it to the fuselage. Now, this covering is just a printed covering. It's not fabric or anything like that. Would have been nicer if it was. But I'm going to take my cheap soldering iron and make the holes for these pieces here. They go through and then hook to some brackets inside here. And we'll get that started. Okay, there we go. Holes cut. Okay, that wire is a bit tight going in there, so we're going to have to Dremel it a little bit. Now these two wires are exactly the same, there's no difference. So they could go front or back, won't matter. That is still going to be... There's probably a trick to doing this. Okay, I ended up bending this wire a little bit. Really didn't want to do that, but and there's some little set screws that go in these pieces for these wires. These go in here, and these go on top of it with some screws. And I'll show you that when that's finished. Okay guys, I've got the landing gear part mostly assembled. There's still a couple of things I have to do to it. So those little blocks that I showed you earlier are, this plate screws in, holds it in place. You can just see the set screws in there, holes for the set screws that I haven't put in yet. Now this one I can't get to. I may have to Dremel them out or push that back a little bit, and I think probably pushing that plate back a little bit is what's going to happen. Because putting the wheel on, those plates hit there, and then there's almost no room for the axle on the end. So they may need to be even cut off, not sure yet. Also, when you're aligning this plate, it's best to put, I'll show you this in the instructions, put this axle in all the way through, and that'll give you your alignment for drilling your holes for your mounting plate there, retaining plate, I should say. So there is the instructions on how to assemble. As you can see, the set screws go in there from the bottom. Now they don't show you putting the axle in until the next page after it's screwed onto the fuselage. And then they don't show you the rubber bands, how they go on, until much later. Several pages later, they show you how the rubber bands go on. And the rubber bands go on, those two rods, and then a couple of lock collars go on to keep the rubber bands from sliding off. So that's how that's supposed to work. Okay, I may have to Dremel this a little bit to get those set screws in there, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, after I get that assembled, I think I would prefer to put the rubber bands and get the axle centered and everything before I bolt it to the fuselage, but we'll give that a try and see what happens. Also, one thing I forgot to mention, and check the fit of these little plates and retaining plates on these axle landing gear wires, because mine, the coating was causing it not to go in, and then I also had to clearance the holes a little bit for them to fit in. So do that before you put the wires in the landing gear wing here. That'll save you a whole lot of trouble. Make sure they fit and slide on, and that would have been much easier, because I had to sand these after I had put the wires in. So do that first. All right, so I've got the retainers all put in place, to Dremeled out a little bit for the set screw. Now I know there's a piece of covering that comes in the kit to cover that. So those wires are set now. And I removed the covering here, thinking that the wire needed to fit in there, and it's actually the landing gear wire is too wide to fit in that groove. So removing the covering didn't help me out any. So now I'm going to put the little retainers in and put that landing gear in place. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm just going to take the screw, put a little little glue on it, and I just dropped one and it disappeared. All right. And these screws are, I already ran them in and back out, and they were pretty tight in the fuselage, so I'm just going to take a little tight bond, put that on the screw, and that'll be it for that. And put it through the retaining plate. Probably should put the retaining plate on first and then put the screw through it. Alright, put just a little bit of glue on the screw. I'm just going to get that screw started, and then can slide the wire underneath of it. There, I did it again. Put the glue on first, and I should have put the retaining plate on first. Anyways, you guys get the idea. I'll cut back to this after I find that other screw. Okay guys, I've got the landing gear installed. I had to dig out another screw. Luckily, it's just a standard 3mm ARF wood screw. And I've got that screwed down. So the next thing to do is to, according to the instructions, is to mount either your engine or, in our case, the motor. And so what they tell you to do is use like an all-thread rod and some nuts and make the plate stand out 150 millimeters from the for the motor and everything, 150 millimeters from the firewall. So there's the firewall. There's a couple of laser marks for the center. This is the inside. Can't really get a good shot in there. So I don't particularly like that all thread rod. I'm sure it works just fine. What I've got is some 5/8 hardwood dowel, and I think I'm going to cut that to length and get the right distance drill through all the way through, and make the motor mounts with 4 of those as standoffs. So let me get to that. I'll measure everything out and get that set up. Okay, got the motor ready for installation. This is the plate that they give you for mounting the motor, but as you can see, the motor does not fit. It's way bigger than what this plate is made for. So What I'm doing is I made some wood dowel standoffs out of 5/8 dowel, and I roughly drilled the center from both ends. It's not perfect, but the idea is just to run a rod all the way through to the firewall, and that's going to be your standoff. So I cut these to length, drilled them from both ends, and with a pilot hole, then drilled them out bigger. Like I say, they're not perfect, but they'll work. And wood is very strong, very forgiving. You can manipulate it a little bit. I'm sure if you looked online, you could probably find the right size aluminum standoffs, but I'm working with what I have in the shop here. So all I need to do is get some all-thread rod long enough to go through those, and the motor will be mounted. Okay, since I have to get some threaded rod for the motor, we're going to skip ahead on that and go to these little side panels I want you to put on. Now, this is where the cabane struts also bolt through at these points. And they've got what they want you to do. I don't know if you guys can see this or not, but they want you to put 10 little tiny screws around the outside of this, and to hold that in place. So what I'm going to do is I may put those screws in later, but for right now I'm going to just take some E6000, put that around the edge of this panel, take a little blue tape, and just glue that thing down. I've got the couple of the bolts in for the struts, just for alignment, and we'll get that glued in place. Okay, now we just let that sit while we do up the other side. Blue tape should hold it in place. And I'll get this side done.